Alright, algebraic reasoning. This is your review for your unit function operation test, which is unit 3-1. It's what we've been working on the past few weeks. I'm just going to work through the review fairly fast, so if you need to pause it, do so at any time. I'm just going to go through some basics just so you can kind of see what's going on to help you prepare for the test tomorrow. So here we go. This one I'm using this graph to solve given these couple things. So I need to remember that if it's inside my parentheses, it's representing x. So I'm going where x is -6, and then I'm going to go down, and right here would be my solution, which is 6 is my y. Okay, same thing. Go to -2, go up, my y is 2. F of 0, go up, my y is 6. F of 4, here's 4, go down, -2 is my answer. So that's just reading it from a graph on there. Now the difference with number 2 is now we're given it to where it's equal to. So this is representing the y. So now I'm going to go where y is 6. I'm going over, here's where it is, which is -8. Again, here's 0. So I'm going at 0, go over 4. -2, so I'm going to go down to -2, go over, I'm at 8. And then notice, now we're back inside the parentheses, so we're talking about x. I'm going to go where x is 4. My answer is 0. So these actually right here go back and forth. Alright, 3 through 6, I'm going to tell you right now number 5 and number 4. Look at your table. Okay, these two, I want you to make sure you know how to do algebraically. So to do this algebraically, I'm using the letter here, so I'm going to use f of x equation. So I'm going to do -2 times -4 plus 3. That is the algebraic. That's all I need to see. Then you're just going to come to your calculator. And in your calculator, you're going to type in -2, open parentheses, -4, closed, and then plus 3, enter. And your answer for that would be 11. So let's come down and do this one, and I'll go back to 4 and 5. So number 6, now I have the letter h. So I'm going to use my h of x equation. So I'm going to do -1 squared minus 4. Well, that's the same. Again, just plug it in your calculator. So open parentheses, -1, close, squared, minus 4. Hit enter, and you get -3 as your answer. Now, 4 and 5, let's talk about it from a table. So from a table standpoint, I'm going to go to my calculator. Hold on, guys. Alright, sorry about that, guys. So here, if we want to solve this, I'm going to look at number 4, and I see that it says f of x equals 7. So I'm going to use my f of x equation, and I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type that equation in. So I'm going to hit -2x plus 3 into my calculator, and then I'm going to go to my table. I'm looking where now, remember, this right here, this 7, represents my y. So I'm looking where my y is 7. Well, that's right here. So my answer would be where it is 7, which is -2. That is all you need to be able to do to be successful on your test. Number 5. Number 5 is giving me h of x. So now I've got to go plug in my h of x equation, which is x squared minus 4. Please make sure you're putting minus, not negative. It's really important. Go to your table. I'm looking where, again, this is representing the y variable. So where y is 32. So I'm going to go up, and I see it here at -6. So that is one of them. Now you're going to notice, and this isn't going to happen tomorrow, so don't be too worried. But if you go down, you also have it at +6 as well. So both of these would be your answers, -6 and 6. Number 7. Number 7 says given f of x equals -3x plus 4 and g of x equals 2x minus 6, fill in the table for f of x, g of x, and h of x, which is the sum means add, of f of x and g of x. I think these are some of your favorite problems to do, honestly. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm just going to hit this at once. So I'm going to hit -3x plus 4, and I'm also going to type in g of x into y too. So just kind of keep up with that while you're doing it. So 2x minus 6. Second table. Notice I start at -2, so I'm going to go to my table and start at -2. See the numbers? That's what I'm about to plug into my table. So I have 10, -10. 7, -8. 4, -6, 1, -4, -2, -2, -5, and 0. Now, to fill in h of x, I'm going to add these two because that's what sum means. So I'm going to do, in my main screen, that 10 plus -10. I'm typing in exactly like I see it, and it's 0. And then I'm going to do that along the line. So I'm going to do 7 plus -8, enter, and I get -1. Then 4 plus -6, enter, I get -2. Then 1 plus -4, -3, -2 plus -2, -4, -5 plus 0, -5. So that's how you do number 7. Now flip over to the next page and let's look at number 8. Number 8 now says fill in the tables, and I've got the f of x and g of x, and h of x, which is the difference. Difference means subtract. So now I'm going to subtract f of x minus g of x to fill in h of x. Sorry for that coming off the video there. So difference means subtract. I'm going to subtract these two right here. Let's go in and fill those in. Same way, going into my calculator, go into y equals, plugging in those equations. So my y1 is going to be x squared minus 6x plus 5, and my y2 is going to be negative x plus 6. Second table, and I'm going to fill them in. But please be careful, because if you notice these right here, they skip some numbers. Some of you missed those on your quizzes because you weren't paying attention. So please be careful. So I'm going to go up to -5, and I have 60 and 11. -3, I have 32 and 9. Then -1 is 12 and 7. 0 is 5 and 6. Go down. You got to look at 1 and 2. So 1 is 0, 5. 2 is -3, 4. Please be careful and make sure you're paying attention as to what you're plugging in. Alright, I'm going to focus the screen a little bit to see if you can see it and it's not as... Doing the best you can on that one, guys. Alright, so here we go. Now, I want to subtract these two. So I'm going to do in my calculator exactly as I see it. So I'm going to hit 60 minus 11, and I've got 49. 32 minus 9, and I have 23. 12 minus 7, and I have 5. 5 minus 6, -1. 0 minus 5, -5. And then this one, be careful, -3 minus 4, enter, and you have -7. Please be careful when it comes to those. Alright? So then, now looking at number 9 and number 10, this one is asking me to use the same thing, except now I'm having to go algebraically. So it says, given f of x and g of x, find h of x, which is f of x plus g of x. This is, if you want to check, you could do these two tables like we did up here, and then plug in your h of x equation and see if you, okay, if I add them, do I get that number? No, then I did something wrong. That's what it means by check. Alright, so f of x plus g of x. Remember, I did this up and down, so I did -3x plus 4 plus, just like you normally would do in elementary school when you're adding, 5x minus 3. Okay, and then each piece I'm going to plug in my calculator. So -3 plus 5 is 2x, and then 4 plus -3 is plus 1. So my answer would be h of x equals 2x plus 1, and I would box that answer. Alright, number 10, same concept, you're adding the function. So I have x squared, and I'm going to put plus 1 at the end because notice there's no x in between. Then to line up, I have an x plus 2. So I'm adding those two functions. X squared plus nothing, it just gives me x squared. Nothing plus x gives me plus x. And then 1 plus 2 gives me plus 3. So my answer is x squared plus x plus 3, and that equals h of x. Number 11, given f of x equals 2x minus 1 and g of x equals x plus 2, find h of x, which is f of x minus g of x. Okay, again, check it just like I was telling you earlier about plugging it in y1, y2, y3, seeing if your tables match if you subtract them. If they don't, you did something wrong. So here we go. F of x minus g of x. So I've got 2x minus 1 minus x plus 2. So I do 2 minus 1, well that's just x. Negative 1, and guys, this is where you have to be careful. In your calculator, you're going to hit negative 1 minus 2 and enter, and your answer is minus 3. This is where a lot of y'all are getting confused today. So h of x equals x minus 3 as your answer. Alright, then we're going to do the next one, number 12. Same concept, we're subtracting them, and I'll show you how to check them here in a minute. So this one right here, f of x minus g of x. I have x squared minus 3x plus 2 minus negative x squared minus x plus 6. So watch carefully on how I enter these in my calculator. Okay, remember when it's just x squared, it's understood to be 1. Sorry for that camera moving there. Alright, so in my calculator, this is like saying 1 minus negative 1, enter, and I get 2, if you can see that right there, 2x squared. Then negative 3 minus negative 1, enter, and you're going to get negative 2, and don't forget that x. That's another common mistake y'all are doing. And then finally 2 minus 6, and you get negative 4, and that is what h of x equals right there. Now if you want to check to see if your answer is right, here's how you can do this. So in your calculator, you can go to y equals, and you can type in f of x and y1. So x squared minus 3x plus 2 into y1. Then y2, you could type in g of x, so negative x squared minus x plus 6. And then in y3, type in that function you solved for. So that 2x squared minus 2x minus 4. And go to your table. So you're going to notice, like for example, right here, remember we're subtracting the two functions. So this would be 20 minus 0. Well, 20 minus 0 should be 20. Yes, it is. Then if I go back over, 12 minus 4 should be 8. Yes, it is. If you can go through and you can find those and you can say yes, then you've done this correctly. Okay, that's just a couple ways that you can check. All right, here comes the fun stuff, the stuff that you also really struggled with throughout the lesson. So make sure you're paying attention here. So given f of x equals 3x and g of x equals 7 minus x, find f of g of 5. Alright, well to find that, I'm going to do g of 5 first. So that's like saying g of 5 equals 7 minus 5. Well, what is 7 minus 5? It's 2. So this equals 2. So now I take that, and I'm going to look at my next letter. Well, my next letter is f. So I'm doing f of 2, which equals 3 times 2, which equals 6, and that is my answer. Guys, you have to master this to be able to be successful, so please pay attention. Alright, f of 5. Again, start from the inside. So now I'm going to my f of x equation. I'm going to do 3 times 5, which equals 15. I use this and plug it into that outside letter, which is g. So that's like saying 7 minus 15, which equals negative 8, and that is my answer. 15, so 15, you either get 13 and 14 or you get 15. I haven't seen a whole lot of the both, so please pay attention to the difference. Notice here I just have an x, okay? Not changing my equation. So I have g of, but instead of f of x, I replace it with that equation of f of x, so 3x. Then I take this 3x, and now I'm going to plug it into my x here. So my equation becomes 7 minus 3x. Nothing to simplify, so that is my answer. 16, similar concept, except now we've got g of x on the center, so I have f of g of x, which is x minus 5. And now I plug that into the f equation. So I do 8 times x minus 5 plus 13, which is 8x minus 40 plus 13. In your calculator, type in negative 40 plus 13. And so your final answer would be negative 8x minus 27 right there. So that was just the simplifying piece. Remember, it's like when the sub came in for me, I left, I was no longer here. Alright, so remember, if this comes in for that x, it's no longer there. So same concept here. G of my f of x equation, so 2x plus 2. Okay, and then I do this right here into my x of equation, my g of x. So I have 2x plus 2 plus 1. So 2x plus 3 is my answer. Alright, 18. Now I have a number there. So this is where I'm going to plug the number into that letter. So f of 2. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 plus 2. And that equals 2 times 2 is 4 plus 2 is 6. Or just plug it in your calculator. Then I do g of 6. So now I go to that. So I'm going to do 6 plus 1, which is 7. And that's my answer. Alright, just a few more left. Number 19. Number 19, same concept as before, except notice the order. So now I'm doing g of 2. So I'm going to do 2 plus 1, which equals 3. Take that. And then plug it into here. So I have 2 times 3 plus 2. So 2 times 3 plus 2, which equals 6 plus 2, so 8 is your answer. Okay, you're just feeding one equation into the other, just similar down to here. These are the last few problems that you have to focus on, so pay attention here. Remember, this right here means the same thing as g of f of 5. Okay, all that circle means is composition. It's just telling you, hey, set up those parentheses like we've been doing. Start from the inside, so f of 5, so I go where x is 5 for my f of x table, and that is 3. So now I have g of 3. Go to my g of x table, 3, and then my answer is 4. Alright, g of f of 6. Again, f of 6, go where it's 6, which is 4. So now I'm doing g of 4. So now go to your g of x table, 4. My answer is 8. Last one, f of 7. So f of, now we're going now to the f of 7. So 7, it's 5. Okay. Notice I have an f on the outside, so pay attention. Now I go back to my f of x table. I'm going to go where x is 5. My answer is 3. Okay. Super fast video, super quick. I understand. Look, that's the end. It's 3 pages long. You only have to do 22 problems. Please practice this. Please pay attention. Go back, check what you don't understand, rewatch the video, and prepare for that test tomorrow so that you can be successful.